let's take a look at Friday. It's a regular size schedule. There are 8 games on. Who are we streaming in and who's out, and what do we need to pay attention to, Michael Bolton?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshlloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. The generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Also, check out lockedondaily.com and get yourself in on the newsletter for your favorite team, lockedondaily.com. And we're, of course, over here double banging, watching the video and listening to the audio side of things, giving the thumbs and the comments and all of that stuff that does help immensely. Let's talk about Friday. No NBA Cup action going on that day, of course, because we've only got a couple of those games left. Friday, 8 games on. And I will just again provide this reminder, and I'm going to do this. I should have done it on the mailbag show today, but I'll do it right now again. There are no extra games to be scheduled. The schedule that you see is the schedule that exists. It is what is happening. The games on Saturday, the semifinal games, they count for fantasy. Yes, it counts on ESPN, it counts on Yahoo, it all counts. No, the game on Tuesday, the final, does not count. That is not happening. There is no extra games being added to the schedule. It is done. Nothing else is being added. The schedule is set. Thank you. 8 games on Friday. Let's just talk about those ones there and look at how these teams shape up. We don't have a bunch of injury updates, unfortunately, on a lot of these teams. I would have hoped that by this time I would have gotten some more. So just a quick little scheduling note also. Over the weekend, I have to travel interstate for a wedding, so I don't exactly know how it's going to look. You will still get a Saturday preview show, which for those 2 NBA Cup games. There will be a calendar week 9 preview show. I'm just not certain of how or when I'm going to get out a streaming show for Sunday. That's the thing I'm not certain about, how, if, or when that'll come. So just be aware of that. Let's take a look. First game. Pacers and the 76ers is that first game that is up for us. In terms of the schedule for both of these teams, Indiana does have 2 more games left this week. They play Friday, Sunday. Remember, there are no back-to-backs Friday, Saturday because the Saturday is the NBA Cup semifinals in Vegas. Philadelphia, one and only game this week is this one on Friday. Next week, Indiana plays Thursday and Sunday because there are no games Tuesday, Wednesday. Remember that. And Philadelphia's actually got 3 games next week, Monday, Friday, and Saturday. Aaron Nesmith's going to be out. Benny Shepherd is going to be out for Indiana. Caleb Martin's been sort of dealing with stuff on and off for the Sixers. He's currently questionable. Well, I'm listing him questionable there. He did, I believe, participate in... No, he didn't practice. There you go. Neither him nor Adem Bona practice, so that seems like they're probably closer to the doubtful side of things. What we want to watch in this game, there are 2 stars that are underperforming. Tyrese Haliburton and Paul George. So Haliburton's big thing to me at the moment is the assist numbers. They seem to be down, and I don't really know what is happening with that. His shooting numbers fluctuate a lot, and I do believe there's still going to be improvements there, but over the course of the last 2-3 weeks, he's been actually okay. With Paul George, there's obviously some usage things. We need to see how it all still slides in with him and Maxey and Embiid together, and some of the shooting stuff for him also. They're really the key things that I'm watching on those 2 players. In terms of stream guys, Andrew Nembhard is starting. He played 31 minutes last game. That's enough to be streamable. I don't think that he's a guy we're necessarily considering a must-roster guy, but how the interplay goes with him and with Mathurin and with TJ McConnell, and then eventually with Nesmith is going to be really intriguing to see where that value sits. For the Sixers, Kelly Oubre is or has been starting ahead of Jared McCain. I think he will continue to do that. And last game, he played like 1 million minutes. If he's getting 37 minutes a night and he is bringing some steals, which he is currently with some rebounding, that makes him at least interesting to me, Oubre, as a stream guy. I'm not super involved in it. I'm not super excited about what Oubre brings. because he's probably not going to get very much usage in that grouping, but he's bringing some other things to the table, which is not usually a Kelly Oubre trait. The second game is the Washington Wizards and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Schedule-wise, Washington is Friday, Sunday. Cleveland has their one and only game on Friday. And then Washington plays Thursday, Saturday next week, while Cleveland goes Monday, Friday, Saturday. There are a bunch of players that we just don't know the injury statuses for. A lot of them. Evan Mobley left the last game early for the Cavs with an ankle sprain. I would say, I don't even know where I went to. Let's talk Wizards first because I went out of order there. I expect that Brogdon is out with a hamstring injury, but that hasn't been confirmed. And then there's Kuzma, Sarr, George, Kispert, Baldwin, and Holmes, who all missed the last game. Two of those, Baldwin and Holmes, don't really matter. But Kuzma, Sarr, George, and Kispert do. Kuzma's dealing with a rib issue, Sarr had a back problem, and then George and Kispert dealing with ankle problems. I would think that at least three of those players all play, which means the value of someone who's been streamed in a lot, Justin Champagnie, is going to be dropped down quite a bit. But we don't have the updates on those guys. But yeah, Brogdon, Kuzma, Sarr, George, Kispert, that's 5 rotation players. And I think you might get 3 of those guys back, maybe 4 of them back for this game. For Cleveland, like I said, Evan Mobley sprained his ankle. I think he is questionable for this game, but he didn't practice, so you would have to say he's on the side of doubtful, meaning if you wanted to stream in like a George Niang, this is your one opportunity to do that. Max Strus could also be returning and making his season debut. I'm not particularly enamored with Strus as a 12-team must-grab guy, but in terms of streaming in on a day like this, sure, I expect he'll be relatively limited in terms of his minutes, and he's not. And having, if Mobley isn't there, it does help get Strus a couple more shots. So if you wanted to try him, that's okay, but to me, he's more of a 14 and deeper sort of a target long-term. Isaac Okoro missed the last game or left the last game early with a knee issue, but he was able to practice, so he should be okay and ready to go. And then Craig Porter Jr., he's not going to be in the rotation anyway. So what are we watching on the Wizards? The last 2 games, we've got huge minutes out of the Prosecco legend, Lambrusco, Justin Champagnie. He's a two-way player who got a ton of minutes and played really well. But like I said, Kuzma, Sarr, George, Kispert, all of those guys play the 3 or the 4. And the position that Champagnie plays is the 3 and the 4. So it's very unlikely to me that Champagnie plays 30 minutes again. But we want to watch it. What if they decide they're going to use him? I don't see how that would happen. But let's see what goes on there. And for the Cavs, I do want to see what Strus looks like. I want to see how Kenny Atkinson uses him. I want to see how Kenny Atkinson uses the minutes and how cautious they are with him. Because he was a surprising player last season. He started out really red hot and then cooled off to be more like Max Strus. But I do think it's going to be probably even tougher for him this season to provide fantasy value for standard formats. Bilal Coulibaly has been dropped in a lot of spots, understandably so, but I thought last game was really encouraging for him. Now, it did help that there were players out, and what we've seen with Bilal is when the shot doesn't go in, he just stops taking them. We need to get those other numbers, like the assists and steals and blocks coming more regularly, but Bilal is at least streamable here, and you can hold him if you want, but to me, I don't think it matters a huge amount either way. And then Karis LeVert is probably the Cavs streamer, but Strus and Okoro both playing would definitely have an impact, at least on the ceiling level of where LeVert could get to. I think that one is, I feel relatively confident about that. Today's episode is brought to you by the big fellas over at Robinhood. Robinhood Gold is here to tell you that you don't need that silver spoon anymore to get all of those financial favors that the elite 1% get. Robinhood Gold gets you those rates and the perks that usually get reserved for high society. Now, you, the legend that you are, being a resourceful individual, you can get great rates, very liberal rates with Robinhood Gold of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash, and you can get rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth people for anybody with any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Okay, that should bring us back into the next game now. That's 2 down, 6 to go. Hornets Bulls is the next one. In Chicago, they're hosting the old Charlotte Hornets. Both of these teams only have 1 game this week, and it is this game on Friday. And then next week, they both play 3 games. Charlotte is Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Chicago is Monday, Thursday, Saturday. I'm going to guess that LaMelo Ball is out of this game. He is starting to do some practice work, so I think that his return could come as early as Monday, and I would say almost definitely LaMelo plays in one of those Thursday, Friday games next week. Trey Mann, I'm expecting to be out all the way through that, to be fair. And then there's Tijan Salin and Miles Bridges. Salin with an ankle and Bridges with a knee. I think there is significant... I think Salin plays, and I think that Bridges has a fairly good shot of being available and ready to play in this game. Moussa Diabate missed with some, I think it was an illness, I don't really remember exactly, but I'm going to put him as questionable, although if Bridges is playing and Salin is playing, there's not very much for Diabate to do, because Mark Williams is going to return. Now, Williams has been playing 11 minutes in the last couple of games. He sat the last one due to a back-to-back, and they did say they're going to bump his minutes up. So your 14 to 15 minutes, I think, is fine as an expectation, but that means you're going to have him, you're going to have Richards, you're going to have Bridges, and you're going to have Salin, which means that Diabate is not really going to do very much. For Chicago, Josh Giddey is dealing with a back problem. He didn't practice, but they actually think he's going to play. So, yeah, pass that however you want. I don't really know what to make of that, but Giddey, we'll put him as questionable for now. Pat Williams is also looking like he is going to return. I don't think that Williams steps into a 29-minute role or anything like that. In fact, they might still bring him off the bench for at least a game or so behind Dosunmu, but they are incredibly small. Dosunmu's playing the 3 and Zach LaVine's playing the 4. So I think that, yeah, you could get Williams back in there immediately. I don't want to use him because he's not very good, but he's going to return, and that's going to have an issue of cutting the grass of what Dosunmu has been doing. Dalen Terry also left the last game with a knee injury, but he's really not going to be a factor at all. What are we watching for? Well, it is really about watching Mark Williams and how many minutes they push him to and how good he looks in those minutes, because the last time we saw him, he looked pretty good in those 11 minutes. So we're watching that and continuing to see how that goes. I also want to see Zach LaVine on the Bulls, because he went through a weird sort of down patch in usage, and in the last few games, it has ramped all the way back up. So what is the Zach LaVine, the Billy Donovan plan for how much involvement he has? What does that mean for White? What does it mean for Dosunmu? What does it mean for Vooch, whose minutes and usage have been down significantly in the last 2 games? With LaVine's usage rising, Vooch has been very, very low on shot attempts, and that's like a balance we need to watch how it goes. In terms of streams, my expectation is that LaMelo Ball is out, so that expectation means that Vasilije Micic is the guy that we stream in. Now, that's going to end really soon, because LaMelo is going to be back very soon, and that means Micic goes back to being just a deeper league player who takes the backup role while Trey Mann is out. And then Lonzo Ball is probably a Bull streamer. You could look at Pat Williams there. If Dosunmu is available, he's ahead of both of those guys. But Lonzo, in his 20 minutes or so, yeah, there's always a risk of doing nothing, but he can have 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 4 rebounds in a 19 to 20 minutes, which I think is probably realistic for him. Lakers and the Wolves is the next game. The battle of the Minneapolises. Sort of. We're in Minnesota for this game. Both of these teams are a Friday-Sunday team, and then both of them play Thursday-Saturday next week. Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, Jared Vanderbilt are all out for the Lakers, but I didn't think that this would be the case, and LeBron sat the last game, and I thought, okay, they're just giving him the extra time to rest, and now he's doubtful. So I'm guessing the foot injury is actually a problem, or there's something happening, right? We already heard that he got excused for a personal reason during the week, and now he's doubtful again after missing the last game. So that's not great. What that means is D'Angelo Russell, Dalton Connect, Rui Hachimura, all those guys get a bump because they handle the ball more, they play more minutes, and they get more shots with LeBron not there. Austin Reeves is the big question mark, because if Reeves is available, it does cut into what D'Angelo Russell does, but I just don't know about Reeves yet. For the Wolves, the only 2 injury guys there are Rob Dillingham and Joe Ingles, who are just not rotation players anyway. D'Lo's the one to watch, because he had obviously been pushed out of the starting lineup, started to creep back up, pushed down again where they started Gabe Vincent over him. But now with LeBron absent and maybe Reeves, that can help D'Lo push the numbers up. I still don't know that he's going to be able to hold through any of this 12-team value, because of the way they consistently find an excuse to deprioritize D'Angelo. But for now, with the absence of LeBron, likely absence, and maybe an absence of Reeves, D'Lo's back on the menu, boys. For the Wolves, Naz Reid is, I would say, been very disappointing from a fantasy perspective. For some of you, it depends on always going to depend on expectation, isn't it? As to how you view what Reid is doing. But like how the minutes go with him and Randall, and do they keep him at 22s? He pushed to 27. That's the sort of stuff we're always watching there. In terms of stream guys, Hachimura and Connect are the pretty obvious ones there for the Lakers. Unless D'Lo's available, then he prioritizes over them. And then Jaden McDaniels is feel like it's just going to be perennially on this list as a stream guy in Minnesota. The Brooklyn Nets and the Memphis Grizzlies. That is the next game that we take a look at. Brooklyn plays Friday, and then they go Monday, Thursday, Saturday next week. Memphis is Friday, Sunday, into Thursday, Saturday next week. Bojan Bogdanovic remains out. I don't know if this man ever plays. There's just nothing being said whatsoever about him. I don't think that Cam Thomas is playing. I know that Cam Thomas has actually been ruled out. Zaire Williams is out. Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams, and Zach Edey are all out from the Memphis side of things. And then the last time we saw Memphis, there was no Ja, there was no Bane, and there was no Luke Kennard. I am very, very confident that those three players are going to be available here. So I'm putting them with a probable tag at the moment. What am I watching for? The last time we saw the Nets, Nicky Claxton played like 32 minutes and Simmons was at like 19. Is that what they're going to do? They DNP'd Noah Clowney as well, and we saw like 13 minutes or 14 minutes, whatever it was, out of Day'Ron Sharpe. Are we 30 minutes of Claxton now? Is that what we're doing? We watch it. For the Grizzlies, Marcus Smart, even in 25 minutes, is a 12-team league guy at the moment, but that can change like that, right? If he starts to play 22 or some of the involvement levels that he's had drops, then he's not that guy. So we need to keep an eye on it. I think Ben Simmons probably is the stream on the Nets. Like, I don't feel good about streaming Keon Johnson or Shake Milton or Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe you could look at there. Yeah, there's a lot of Jalen Wilsons. There's a lot of guys that can have value, but it's very, very tough to rely upon them. Simmons in 24 minutes would definitely be the guy, but that's not what they've been doing. So we're watching Simmons' minutes, but he's at least in the mix there. And then I think Brandon Clark's a really good stream. You could look at Jay Huff for Memphis as well, but Clark's getting 23, 24 a night. It's probably enough. I feel better about the consistency of what Clark does versus Huff, who might play 19, might play 13, might hit 3 threes, might hit 0. And that consistency of what Clark does, I feel more secure in streaming that sort of a production or that sort of a player in. The LA Clippers, they go to take on the Denver Nuggets. It is the DeAndre Jordan, Russell Westbrook revenge games. The Clippers play Friday, as do the Nuggets, and then next week it is Monday, Thursday, Saturday for the Clippers, and then for the Nuggets it is Monday, Thursday, Sunday. Kawhi's out, Terrence Mann is out, Derek Jones is out with a hamstring for a couple of weeks, by the way, which they called soreness. He's out for a couple of weeks with a really sore hamstring. Kobe Brown's going to be out. Amir Coffey was a late scratch the last time the Clippers played, hurt his shoulder in warm-ups. I think he's probably going to be available, but I'll put him as questionable for now. And then Mo Bamba also sat that game for knee injury management, even though it wasn't a back-to-back. Although, I do just think it was trying to get him a few extra days off with the break coming up. So I think that he'll be available. James Harden also sat that game, but he's going to play. Vlatko Čančar's out for Denver. The big question, though, is going to be what the hell happens with Jamal Murray, because they're listing him with something called hamstring inflammation, whatever the hell that is. And if he doesn't play, then that does really boost Russell Westbrook. And we've seen a few times that Murray has been out this season that when he comes back, he just goes straight in and plays 35 minutes. So that is very clearly something to watch. Dario Saric has also been hurt, but he literally might not play a single second, even if healthy. In terms of stream, guys, with the absence of Mann and the absence of Derek Jones, I want to see how they use Kevin Porter Jr. because he played big minutes in place of Harden last game, but does he go back to just being that backup point guard? Do they play him at the 2 or even the 3? Because 26 of Porter is useful for especially points leagues, but some category builds as well. And we need to see where that role fits. In terms of the Nuggets side of things, well, Westbrook has been doing enough, if he is a starter, to consider streaming, especially for points leagues. But does he go back and play 17 if Murray's there? And is that enough? Obviously it's not. But how do they use him here is going to be intriguing. I think Chris Dunn is still probably the Clippers stream, but there is going to be numerous options there. It could be Amir Coffey. It could be Nico Batum replacing Derek Jones Jr. It could be Kevin Porter. Deeper leagues, the old double Onyx, Diamond, Platinum, Titanium leagues, we'll want to take a look at someone like a Jordan Miller because there is no Terrence Mann now. There is no Derek Jones. There is no Kawhi. There might be no Amir Coffey. So you might actually get 28 minutes of Jordan Miller off the bench. And he's been playing a really key, like almost a sixth-man role in recent times for the Clippers. In terms of the Nuggets streaming, well, Westbrook would be the guy if he is available. But the other guy they've been giving minutes to is Julian Strouder. Don't go and look at Julian Strouder's defensive impact on EPM, by the way. I think he's rated as like the worst player in the entire NBA defensively. And he's not good, very clearly. But he's been getting a few more minutes recently. But I would say that some of that defensive issue is why he hasn't really had that level of breakout that I think that a lot of us, me included, thought was possible for this season. We've got 2 more games that we're going to come back and preview. Then we're going to look at more streams of the day and some schedule stuff coming up. But today's episode, It is, of course, brought to you by the big fellas, the legends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, which is America's #1 sportsbook, of course. Now, that's not a word. FanDuel didn't tell me to say the word now like that, but what they told me to tell you is if you, as a new customer, win your first $5 bet, they'll just give you $150 in bonus bets. Now, right now, they'll give you those numbers. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL right in the app. You don't have to search for the live stats. You don't have to search for the live play-by-play. It's all there in the one spot on the same screen when you are there with the fellas, chilling out, placing your old live bets. So in the middle of the game, you get a hunch. One of your mates gets a hunch. And he goes, hey, what about this? And you go, absolutely not, but let me check. And then you have a look and you go, maybe there's some merit to the nonsense that you spew. And that's okay. And then you fight, then you pillows, punches, whatever it is. You go on, you place your live bet on the FanDuel app, and if you win that first $5 bet as well, you get $150 in bonus bets. So go to FanDuel.com and never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right. Let's get through to the final two games of the day, and one of those games is the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazzmen. It does seem like we are going to be getting some returns here for Phoenix. In terms of schedule, though, Phoenix is a Friday-Sunday team, and then Thursday-Saturday the week after. Utah is a Friday only, and then into Monday-Thursday-Saturday. It seems like Nurkic and Durant are going to be available to return for Phoenix, which changes a lot of stuff. Also, Grayson Allen is questionable, and Ryan Dunn is questionable. So there's a lot happening there. Utah, we know Taylor Hendricks is out, but Jordan Clarkson still just don't know. The man on the street, Jordanclarkson, has been out for like weeks with his plantar fascia issue. There's literally no update. It's just like, okay, he's out. Okay, he's out. Okay, cool. No update whatsoever. So I don't know whether Clarko's going to play. I would think that, I feel more confident about him playing in this one, but I just don't know. And then even when he's out, it could be Collier, it could be Juzang, it could be Mykhailiuk. It could be 38 minutes of Colin Sexton. It could be 22. I just never know because Will Hardy changes his mind every single moment. In terms of what we're watching for on the Suns, well, Grayson Allen, with Durant out and with Nurkic out, he's playing like 30, 31 minutes a night and being very useful for fantasy. But if Durant plays, and that is the expectation, is Allen a 24-minute guy? Because that's not good enough. That's not useful enough for us. For the Jazz, Keontae George has been better, much better. He's like a top 100 player over the last 2 or 3 weeks. The shooting's up. He's still getting good usage and good minutes and solid assists, and some of the shots are falling. Is that a mirage? Has something been figured out? I don't know, and I don't believe that it has necessarily, but that's what we're watching for. In terms of streams, Royce O'Neal still is the stream guy, but if Durant returns, that value does drop pretty significantly. And then for Utah, man, who knows? Bryce Sensabaugh? Jordan Clarkson would be the stream if we know that he's available, but otherwise it's Sensabaugh, or it's bloody Filipowski, or it's Collier or Juzang or someone, and you just don't feel any level of confidence in any of those guys in that sort of a spot. The final game of the day is the San Antonio Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers. You guys can fact check me this. I feel like they've played 35 times already this season. Why do I feel like every game they play against each other? Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. I know the Spurs and Jazz play each other like 3 times in the first week of the year. Not quite, but close enough. But these guys feel like they play all the time. The LaMarcus Aldridge Bowl just is always in our faces. The Spurs go Friday, Sunday. And then Thursday, Saturday, and the Blazers do exactly the same thing. Friday, Sunday into Thursday, Saturday. Keldon Johnson hasn't officially been ruled out, but he left the last game with a calf strain. And I'm going to assume that a calf strain doesn't fix in 4 days, so I'll say that he's out. Trey Jones is definitely out. Zach Collins hurt his back and left that game early in the last one as well, so I'll put him as questionable for now. Steph Castle hurt his shoulder. He was able to return. He says he's fine and good to go, so I'll just put a preemptive probable tag on Castle there. Thibel's going to be out for Portland, but now the big thing is that the centers are all back. Donovan Clingan, MCL sprain, looks like he's ready to go. Rob Williams, Chauncey Billups says he's got one test to pass, and it looks like he's going to pass it, and he's practicing, so they're both going to be back at the same time. So now we get the gigantic question of what the hell happens? Because the last time we saw all those guys available, like Ayton was played in like 23 minutes, and then Williams would play like 18, and Clingan would play 12. I actually don't expect Clingan to play anywhere close to 20 minutes in this game. I think 15 to 13 is realistic. But is Rob Williams in 16 minutes good enough? Probably not. What the hell happens to Ayton here? That is, honestly, out of all of Friday, watching what happens with DeAndre Ayton and watching how these centers interact is one of the big things to pay attention to, I think. Dwight Reith, also questionable. He's not going to play. for the Spurs, I want to see what is happening with Jeremy Sohan because he's played like 21 or 22 minutes in 3 of the 4 games since he returned. And the game that he didn't was the game that he started at center. So they are currently still bringing Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan off the bench and playing them fewer minutes than Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes, and Steph Castle, which seems crazy. It seems crazy. But that's what's been happening. And if Sohan is going to be a 21-minute a night player, which again, considering how good he has been, seems crazy, then he's not going to be rosterable. For now, he is, but we need to watch it. On the Blazers, this man's been terrible, Anthony Simons. And honestly, given his production, he is not a rosterable player, but don't take those words out of context. If you just use his current production, you would say, why would I bother? That's not the point of this. I think he's going to be better than that, but what if he's not? What if he's just terrible? That's possible. So for now, he is a hold, just. Julian Champagnie remains the streamer on the Spurs because he is available in a lot of spots. There's just so much uncertainty hanging over where that role goes, but for now, we're streaming him in. And then Tamani Kamara is the guy in Portland. Now, Shaedon Sharpe's been dropped in spots. Honestly, rightfully so, because as a category league guy, he's not very good. And now we still have these other players. The center's coming back, and Scoot's there, and Simons is there, and Grant's there, and Denny's there. And he doesn't do anything, really, Shaedon. So I actually don't mind that he's been dropped, but if he was dropped, you would consider him at least a streaming option in this particular setting. There's nothing really chunky going on because we've still got the 2 days coming up with 0 games on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I tried to expand it out to have a look at the next 5 actual NBA game days, but the problem with that is the day after we come back from the day off on Wednesday, next Thursday, is a 13-game day, so you can't stream on that day anyway. So there's no one who's really got this big chunky section going on in terms of 3 games in 5 game nights. But what I will look at is there someone with a really terrible schedule, and over the next 7 days, both the Bucks and the Heat play 1 game. Now, Milwaukee plays that 1 game on Saturday as part of the NBA Cup, but Miami doesn't play. Like, when is Miami's next game? Let's double check that. Because I think they play today, don't they? Yeah, they play today. And then after that, where are they? The old Miami Heat, as I just tried to bring up my schedule, which I probably should have had pre-prepared earlier. The Miami Heat play a game. Yeah, their next one after that is Monday. And that's it. So they don't play Thursday. They play Monday. They don't play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you're considering like a Jaime Jaquez or a Drew Smith or a Duncan Robinson or a Terry Rozier or Gary Trent or anything like that, like there's 1 game for the Bucks and 1 game for the Heat in the next 7 days, and there is about 14 teams that play 3 games over that time frame. So obviously, that is a sizable difference, and it's important. Let's go through now some stream of the day options for Friday's games across the NBA. The stream of the day for 10s, Kelly Oubre just falls under my little cutoff there. He's at 64% rostered. I use a 65% marker there. For 12 teamers, I'm going to go with Andy Nembhard. 14 teams will go with Tamani Kamara in that spot. And then for deeper 16-plus Diamond Onyxes, we go with Brandon Clark. For Yahoo points, I'm going with 40% rostered or under Steph Castle. And then for ESPN points, it's his Spurs teammate, Julian Champagnie. If we just go into this a little bit deeper now, some 10-team options. All of these are 65% rostered or below on Basketball Monster. Kelly Oubre, Andrew Nembhard, Tamani Kamara, Brandon Clark, Marcus Smart, and Jaden McDaniels. For 12-teamers, we're going to go with Obadiah Toppin, Lonzo Ball, Dracaris LeVert, Carlton Carrington, Chris Dunn, and Benjamin Simmons. And then for deeper leagues, I'll go to Jay Huff of the Memphis Grizzlies. We go to Jarris Walker, Dorian Finney-Smith, Nicola Batum, Cody Martin in Charlotte, and old Sticks himself, Jalen Smith in Chicago. If we are looking at points leagues, and we are, for Yahoo points leagues, your top option there is Steph Castle, it's Julian Champagnie, it's Vasilije Micic, it's Kelly Oubre, Bilal Coulibaly, and Andrew Nembhard. And lastly, we'll go to ESPN points leagues and take a look at the top options over there. And it is Champagnie, Micic, Castle, Nembhard, Oubre, and Bilal Coulibaly. And that is a preview for Friday, back to some normality with an 8-game day across the NBA. So if you want to get your normality back, just double bang and thumb and subscribe and actually hit the bell as well. If you want to dingle that little bell, it's Christmas time. What else are we doing here? Jingle it all the way, hit the bell, and don't forget, again, let's be good. We're going to be good with our fantasy teams. We're going to be good in our life. We're going to be nice. We're going to lift people up. And we're going to be kind to ourselves, which is almost one of the more important things. Because if you're not going to be kind to yourself, why would anyone else? Recognize the good, work on the bad. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.